Hello, my name is Laura Mang, and today I will be discussing my survey results and recommendations for my research about the social dorm cooking experience. The purpose of my presentation is to share the results of my survey, which focused on the student group cooking behavior on new North Campus dorms. With this study, I wanted to answer the design question of how can we redesign the physical space of shared kitchen lounges in the new North Campus dorms, and address social expectations and motivations that may affect dorm cooking behavior to promote social group cooking for students living in the dorms. The overall motivation for my study is that different cooking conventions can positively influence psychosocial outcomes. This is important for college-age students, as participating in shared experiences such as cooking with friends and peers can strengthen them both mentally and physically. Before I go into the details of the survey study, I first want to discuss the results of my previous research. In a prior field study where I observed students cooking in the McCarty Hall kitchen lounges, I focused on gathering qualitative data that explored the habits and motivations of students as they cooked with their friends. I discovered that there were many social interaction distractors, such as phones and now TVs in the lounges, that inhibited meaningful conversations between two parties. In the interview phase of my research study, I discovered that there were external factors that negatively affected the group cooking experience for students. One of my findings revealed that the physical layout of the dorm kitchens did not flow well to support large groups. Unfortunately, my field study and interviews were not able to quantify the opinions and specific issues of students for group cooking in the dorms. This survey seeks to validate previous findings about the physical space of the kitchen and discover which motivators students prioritize when it comes to why they would cook in the dorm kitchens with others. I distributed the survey to 16 participants, which consisted of personal friends and sorority sisters, using Google Forms. I included students who had experience cooking with others in the shared dorm kitchens and excluded any students that had never cooked in them before, as their experiences do not hold relevant data to my design question. I included a variety of questions including multiple choice, rating, ranking, and short answer. These questions aim to confirm, explore, elaborate, or extend previous findings. The questions I asked focus on how often students cooked with others, pinpointing their motivations and opinions, and their ranking of certain challenges to cooking with others in the dorms. One thing to note about the study is that the sample size is small and it's likely that they are not representative of the overall student population. Another limitation is that the results are limited to only students who live on the new North Campus dorms. After sending out my survey and analyzing the data I received, I came up with the following results. Result number 1. The lack of kitchen availability is the most deterrent factor to cooking in the dorms. This result was concluded by tallying the counts of which factors students chose as the most deterring to the dorm cooking experience. Looking at this bar graph reveals that the factor of the kitchen never being open was chosen as the number one deterrent with 10 votes. Messy kitchens and the public nature of the dorm kitchens tied for a close second with 9 votes each. It is important to note that students were given the option to submit an other answer, and both student write-ins addressed not wanting to lug over their kitchen supplies to the shared dorm kitchens every time they wanted to cook. Overall, this bar graph addresses the most important deterrents to the group cooking experience. What this implies is that the lack of a time availability of the shared kitchen spaces demotivates students to use the dorm kitchens and cook in them, leading to them choosing other methods of getting and making food as well as other ways of spending time with others. Based on this result, I recommend that the dorms build one private kitchen on each floor that can be rented online using a timesheet. This way, students can reserve the private kitchen space for just themselves and their friends when they want to cook and avoid the public shared kitchen issue of the space not being open. With this solution, student accountability is also addressed, as students reserve the space with their name and student ID number, and if the kitchen is left messy, the building will be able to identify the students that were previously in the space. Result number 2. The lack of kitchen appliances has the most negative impact on group cooking in the dorms. This result was derived by averaging the ratings of which challenge students ranked as the most negatively impacting to the group cooking experience in the dorms. Looking at this bar graph reveals that the challenge of a lack of access to kitchen appliances in the dorm kitchen was chosen as the most impactful challenge with an average rating of 3.33. The constraints of the kitchen size and loud public setting tied as the second most impactful challenges to the cooking experience. What this implies is that the lack of available kitchen appliances in the dorm kitchens forces students to plan to bring and lug over their own personal appliances every time they choose to cook in the dorm kitchen. This is a hassle and often a factor into why students choose against cooking in the dorms. Based on this result, I recommend that the dorms provide a set of common kitchen appliances in each shared dorm kitchen within a locked cabinet. These cabinets can then be accessed with a key and be checked out at the main desk to ensure security and accountability of the appliances. With this solution, students will have access to the appliances they need at their fingertips and be more inclined to choose to cook in the dorm kitchen with their friends. Result number 3. Hanging out with friends is the most significant group cooking motivator for students. This result was concluded by tallying the counts of which motivator students chose as the most significant reason for wanting to cook with others. Looking at this bar graph reveals that the motivator of hanging out and spending time with friends was chosen as the number one motivator with 15 votes. Love of food and trying out new recipes came in second and third respectively. It is important to note that students were given the option to submit another answer, and surprisingly, both students' write-ins addressed enjoying other people cook for them more rather than cooking themselves. Overall, this bar graph addresses the most significant social motivators for students when they cook with others. What this implies is that students are motivated by the personal connections they make with friends and being able to bond and make memories with them while cooking. Based on this result, I recommend implementing more cooking programs in the dorms where students can work together in groups to create recipes or compete in food challenges. This solution will allow students to spend time with their friends in the dorm kitchens and could also create an association that the dorm kitchen is a viable space for social activities. Having gone over the results, I present the following prioritization of my recommendations. First, I said that dorms should begin introducing more group cooking programs within the dorm activities. This solution is the least expensive to implement and helps promote a social interactive culture within the dorms, which is important to dorm staffing. For the second recommendation, I decided to prioritize building a private kitchen on each dorm floor that can be reserved. I placed this recommendation at number 2 because it related back to my previous studies and that students expressed a need for a better laid out private kitchen space. Furthermore, a private and larger kitchen was one of the most heavily requested improvements in the short answer of the survey that asked, how can we improve the challenges of kitchen size restraint, electronics, loud public setting, and the lack of kitchen appliances? I placed supplying common kitchen supplies as my final recommendation because this recommendation will require more resources to implement, as every kitchen space in the dorms needs their own set of kitchen supplies. HFS will need to find a standard kitchen supply set to provide for all the kitchens and implement a key system to keep students accountable so that no kitchen supply is lost. As for next steps, I would need to do more research on the specific kitchen appliances students would need the most in the shared kitchen spaces to determine what is necessary and what students would feel comfortable bringing. To do this research, I would conduct another round of interviews and surveys to understand the different types of appliances students would prefer having prepared in the space versus being able to bring their own. Additionally, I would want to gauge any concerns of sharing kitchen appliances within the dorm community. Secondly, I would need to do more research into the different kinds of cooking programs students would be interested in participating in with their friends and peers. In order for these programs to succeed, we would also need to know when students are available to meet and who would be best to host these programs. I would also conduct this research in another round of interviews and surveys. If I were to conduct this survey again, 2 things I would do differently are to expand my participant pool beyond friends and my sorority sisters, and distribute the survey to students that also live in West Campus dorms to get a better understanding of student cooking in all of the dorms with shared kitchen spaces. One of the biggest limitations of the survey is its small sample size and population. Furthermore, because of the format and how I recruited my participants, there is a possibility for response bias, which could affect the reliability of my results. The most challenging part of this survey study was analyzing the data and finding interesting trends that were relevant to my initial design question. Something I was surprised by was that I expected more students to have an issue with distracting electronics in the kitchen space because of what I initially observed during my field study. Overall, however, I enjoyed the survey portion of the study because I was able to learn a lot about the cooking habits and motivations of my friends and peers. And that concludes my presentation on my survey results and recommendations. Thank you.